All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So another Jets practice in the books here. Big week, right? Game against the Carolina Panthers on Saturday, preseason week 2. We get the joint practice on Thursday. Really looking forward to both of those days, right? To see how the guys are coming along, see if they can stack good performance on top of another good performance. But as far as this practice was concerned, I guess we'll start with Haason Reddick, right? No update here. There's no news from last night. He didn't show up. Now, a part of me was thinking, okay, and Tyson made this point last night on of course, Let's Talk Jets Radio. He was saying, and he's mentioned this a few times, he talked about Haason Reddick potentially doing a hold in, essentially, right? We've seen guys do it before. Brandon Ayuk is doing that right now, where he's in the facility. He's there, so he can't be fined by the 49ers, but he's not participating in practice. So it's kind of this weird situation. It would essentially eliminate the whole discussion or dilemma of the Jets wanting a player to be in the facility to negotiate a contract. That would be out the door. So, from that standpoint, it could maybe, if that was the case, right, if Reddick was in the facility doing this hold-in, I mean, it would save him a ton of money, first off, and then it would also give him and the Jets an opportunity to hopefully come to some sort of solution. But as we stand right now, Reddick, he missed another day here. Another $50K down the drain, which cannot be rescinded, which is crazy to think about. But we actually saw this too with Jalen Ramsey years and years ago, right? Where he wanted that mega contract extension from Jacksonville. Jacksonville didn't want to do it. And so Ramsey was, showing up and just, I'm not good enough to play. Not good enough to play. I'm not healthy enough to play. Until until he essentially just forced the Jags to trade him. To the LA Rams. Jags got a haul back in return. He goes to LA and signs this big money deal. Again, we'll see what happens with this Reddick thing. Hopefully the end is near here. But as far as Robert Saleh's point of view on the matter, he essentially just agreed with Joe Douglas, right? In the statement that Douglas released yesterday, didn't really have much of a response additional to that. Just said he was focused on the guys that were here. I actually thought that he was really calm, really confident in that response in the post-practice presser. It gives guys like McGregor and Watts and McDonald more opportunities to get reps in camp, which, is huge, right? So, as a coach, in his words, he can only, control who's in the building, and ultimately, they're not really worrying about it from a player/coach perspective. He actually said it himself, it's not a distraction. Believe me, it's not a distraction. So take with that what you will. Do you buy that? Do you not buy that? For me, I think if you're a guy in Robert Saleh or Jeff Ulbrich or one of the pass rushers on the team, any player on the squad, you're not really looking at it as like a distraction. But if you're a guy in Joe Douglas who allowed Huff to walk and traded away JFM and, traded away a solid asset to go get Reddick. And now this thing is such a big talking point. I do feel like it is a bit of a distraction for the front office or a blemish on their resume. But again, as far as Saleh and the players, coaching staff and the players are concerned, I really don't feel as though it's a distraction for them. They're not, in practice saying like, oh man, I wish Reddick was here. He'd be able to, get in the backfield a little bit more. But speaking of the edge rusher position, Jermaine Johnson had, I want to say, one of his best days in training camp so far. Multiple sacks, constantly getting in the backfield, had a tackle for loss. Actually, I think made the highlight play of the day early on where he just blew up Xavier Gibson. And look, if Jermaine Johnson can take that next leap forward, right, because he already built off, he had a good rookie year, built upon that. I mean, if he could take another one, man, we can be looking at somebody who truly can be a double-digit sack artist, virtually every year. I still feel like Johnson has a lot of potential still left in the tank, a lot of gas there. I don't feel as though he's reached his potential. He's reached his ceiling. We've already seen the best of Johnson, and like he's already peaked. Not really at all. I still feel like he has that next level to that he could reach, which is super exciting. Now, somebody else who had a really nice day was Irv Charles, somebody who is fighting for that bottom of the wide receiver depth chart position. But Irv Charles actually did a great job on special teams a year ago, as we all know. But it's going to be interesting to see really what the Jets' point of view on the bottom of the wide receiver depth chart is going to be moving forward, right? If they want that guy to the more traditional wide receiver, right? Mike Williams, maybe, let's just say he's not 100% healthy to start the season, and maybe Alan Lazard gets banged up or Garrett Wilson gets banged up, I could maybe see the Jets opting for Brownlee. But if everybody's healthy, everybody's on track and good to go, I could see the nod going to Irv Charles because of that special teams impact, right? He did take a lot of strides last year in that department. And by the way, it's not to say that Brownlee can't play on special teams, but it's clear that the Jets value Irv a lot in that department, right? Covering punts and stuff. So, to walk away from today's practice and Irv Charles actually made some plays in the passing game, sweet. And last but not least, Aaron Rodgers supposedly had a fantastic day. He was carving up the defense. Granted, it was a lot of short passes early on, but actually towards the end of practice, he hit Alan Lazard deep down the field. And that's exactly what you want to see, right? Especially if Rodgers isn't, he didn't play in the first preseason game. He missed that joint practice status up in the air, right? Will he play against the Panthers? Will he play against the Giants? It's important that Rodgers is actually looking sharp and not looking rusty in these training camp practices. Again, assuming that he's not going to be participating in any of the, I guess, quote unquote, bigger practices or preseason games. Look, we've seen a lot of we saw Joe Burrow participate in preseason. We saw Josh Allen, right? They're big name guys that are playing in preseason. CJ Stroud, right? They're playing in preseason. But with Aaron Rodgers, 40, coming off the Achilles. Also, too, you can even go back to that last year's game against the Giants when Wink Martindale was sending a lot of blitzes at Aaron Rodgers. Kind of like that rivalry, like that in-state rivalry type of thing. I understand it from Saleh's perspective, right? You don't want to risk it. But at the same time, lots of new faces here. Tyron Smith, Morgan, we could go down the list. There has to be a level of confidence that they're on the same page because, look, we cannot start off slow this season. It is imperative that the New York Jets start fast. 100%. We cannot be... we cannot have 3 wins at the trade deadline, 4 wins at the trade deadline, and expect to dig ourselves out of the hole as the weather gets colder and the playoff teams start locking down, and really start clicking on all cylinders. That's what the great teams do. Great teams don't fall apart at the end of the year. So, again, starting fast is monumental, and the Jets, Saleh specifically, I guess maybe Saleh and Hackett, because how much of a say does Saleh really have offensively? Those two coaches need to have 100% confidence that this offense can function and operate at its peak by week 1. And if they feel like they can get to that level without Rodgers playing in these joint practices and preseason games, fair enough, right? But if not, then we have a bit of, a bit of a question here. And I think at that point, it is safe to say, what, if we don't feel like we can be at 100%, or there might be a learning curve, maybe we should throw Rodgers out for a quarter in that Giants game, right? Just to try to get those kinks ironed out, get some more tape under the team's belt, so they can get ready for that week 1 game against the Niners. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.